Hello there and welcome to March, where we're going to have a look at the Messier Marathon. So, a bit of history. Charles Messier, a French astronomer, lived from 1730 to 1817 and he specialised in comets. Now, during the course of his observations, he found many objects in the sky, including nebulae, clusters, galaxies and so on, which were not comets. And so what he did was he made a catalogue of those so that he actually knew that they were there and they were not comets, and that avoided confusing his observations for comets. So the Messier catalogue is a nice manageable 110 items, most of them visible from Ireland, as very few of them are Southern Hemisphere objects, with Monsieur Messier being French. And only one of them is in the constellation Pisces. So when the Sun is in Pisces during March, it should be possible to see almost all of the Messier objects if we get the latitude right, and we are in a reasonably good place in Ireland. Now, Don Machtholtz, who mainly discovers comets as well, but he started doing Messier marathons, him and a few others, in the United States in the 1970s, and that's where the phenomenon comes from. It's been done quite regularly by many clubs and groups in the meantime. And what we need is a moonless clear night in March. So there should, I suppose, be one of those. Ideally, we'd be about 35 degrees north. You can see all of the objects quite easily from that sort of latitude. We're not. We're on the island of Ireland. So the guys in the south, they get a little bit better because from Fastnet Lighthouse, which is about 51.4 degrees north, and up to Malin Head at the very top is 55.4 degrees. There's a slight advantage of a few degrees to actually being in further south there. Now, some of the objects are indeed very faint, and so the ideal instrument would be a very large Dobsonian. I know there's guys with 20-inch Dobsonians and so on, and that would be an ideal tool for this. Except that you'll be doing 110 observations during about a 10-hour period from, say, 7:30 in the evening to 5:30 in the morning, and that would be a very skilled observer to get through all those using a Dobsonian, because you get about 5 and a bit minutes on each object there, and finding that by star hopping and charts probably quite hard. So a more modest scope with GoTo would give you a bit of an advantage on that, and I think most medium-skilled amateurs would be able to get through most of the objects using that sort of kit. 8-inch reflector would probably be good enough to see most of the objects in the Messier catalogue. Now, you'll need a strategy for actually observing, and there's several ways of going about that. You are going to view 110 objects ideally. But the common theme is this. You start in the west after sunset, so you find M74 as a good starting place, and then you sweep across the sky, seeing many objects as you go, and you arrive at the east shortly before dawn, when you'll see M30 in Capricorn is generally about the last object. Now, don't forget, this is a long observing session. This is a 10-hour observing session to see everything. So you will need essentials, which warmth, plenty of layers, food, drink, and batteries, extra batteries, and spare batteries, and so on. So, what I've done here, just to give you the flavour, is I've taken a script by ultrapre@github.com and edited that just to make it look the way I want to, and to be actually from Ireland and so on. Run it through Stellarium, and here is the Messier Marathon on the moonless night of 14th and 15th of March 2021. Enjoy. So here we are, starting off with a nice easy one, M45, or the Seven Sisters, the brightest of the Messier objects. Now it gets more difficult finding the galaxy M74 very low in the west. And slightly easier, we move across to M77. A nice big bright object, Messier 31, the Andromeda Galaxy. And the harder of its two satellite galaxies, M32. bit easier, M110. Now this is a lot fainter than you'd think. It's supposed to be naked eye visible, but it's always very dim, M33. And a planetary nebula, M76. Moving across to Cassiopeia, this is M52. And here, very hard to find, this one actually M103. Don't confuse it with NGC 663, which is nearby. Open star cluster, M34, in Perseus. And on to very, very low, M79, below Orion. Might not see that from Ireland. And a nice easy one, M42, the Great Orion Nebula. And its adjacent partner, M43. And there's a nice reflection nebula, M78 in Orion. And the one that started it all, Messier 1, the Crab Nebula. Coming down into Canis Major now, below Sirius, this is Messier 41. Very nice open cluster. And moving across to M93, another open cluster. And these two up above and to the left of Sirius. First of all, Messier 47, open cluster. And just adjacent to it, M46. Up into Monoceros, Messier 50. And nearby, another open cluster, M48. Nice bright prominent cluster, M35 up in Gemini. And the first of the chain of clusters going up into Auriga, M37. And the next one of that grouping, M36. These are all open clusters in the winter Milky Way. And the last of that group, Messier 38. And across the sky into Leo, M95, one of a 3 galaxy grouping, not the Leo triplet, and M96 adjacent to it, and M105 making up the threesome. As As we move across to the real Leo triplet, this is Messier 65. And adjacent M66, the third member of the triplet is NGC 3628. Now we're moving up to Ursa Major and M101, the Pinwheel Galaxy. And down to the Sunflower Galaxy, M63, just below the handle of the plough. And nearby, discovered from Ireland, the Whirlpool Galaxy M51. Staying nearby, we have Messier 94. Then we move across to the other side of the plough for Messier 102. Nice globular, not far from Arcturus, M3. And nearby the Black Eye Galaxy M64. And another globular in that region is M53, 7th magnitude. Then close by, a galaxy, M59. And right adjacent to it is M60. Now into Virgo and M87. And nearby M89, lots and lots of galaxies in the Virgo cluster. Moving across a little to M90. And down a bit to M58. Now we're into Markarian's chain with M84. And adjacent M86. Many of Markarian's chains are NGCs, not Messiers. And M88, just outside the chain. And nearby M91. Moving across to a nice side-on spiral, M98. And nearby, M99. And still in that region, M100. Then M85. And M49. M61, we're still in Virgo here. And this is lovely, the Sombrero, nice side-on galaxy with dust lanes, M104. Okay, and very low, close to the horizon there, difficult to see from Ireland, I should think M68. A nice easy object in Cancer, Messier 44, the beehive cluster. And down again, very close to that southern horizon, M83. And back again to Cancer, the other cluster in Cancer, which is M67. And a nice globular, M5. And the best globular in the Northern Hemisphere, Messier 13. And not forgetting that Hercules has two globular clusters, the often overlooked M92. And now a fantastic planetary nebula in Lyra, M57, the Ring Nebula. And nearby, much harder to spot, M56. M29 in Cygnus is largely overshadowed by the hydrogen alpha regions around it, but it's a nice little cluster. And also in Cygnus, up above Deneb, M39, open cluster. Then the best planetary nebula in the Northern Hemisphere, M27. And nearby in Sagitta, globular cluster M71. And over into Ophiuchus, the undocumented member of the zodiac, M107. And a nice globular, M12. And very close to it, another globular, M10. And another one, M14. And another one, M9. This one very close to the horizon, might be difficult to spot. And this one, M4, quite close to Antares. We're into Scorpio now. And also close to Antares, M80. A less obvious globular, 7th magnitude. M19 is a globular very, very close to the horizon, unlikely to see this one. Again, 7th magnitude. And we can't even see that one, I don't think. M62, I think that's below the horizon. Again, over into Scutum for the wild duck cluster, M11, an open cluster. And very nearby, M26, also an open cluster. The Eagle Nebula, fabulous view, M16. And nearby, M17. And again in that same vicinity, M18, open cluster. Same area, M24. Quite a large cluster and cloud. Right, we'll head right up into near the pole star now, actually. Messier 81, Bode's Galaxy. And right next to it, with lots of hydrogen alpha, that's M82. Back to Sagittarius for M23, open cluster. And just down a little bit for M21. And right adjacent to that, M20 the Trifid. And nearby, M8 the Lagoon. And in that same area, open cluster M25. And close to that, globular M28, very close to the horizon. And the second best globular, it would be the first if it was further away from the horizon. This is M22. And close to that, another globular, M69, 8th magnitude. Very hard to see that one. And again, 9th magnitude, M70. Again, difficult to see. Now then, M55 is also in that vicinity. I think we're below the horizon at this point. Yes, we are. And M75. I think we're going to miss these because we're just too far north in Ireland. M6, the butterfly cluster, is just above the horizon. And M7. Again, that's one of those we'll miss this time. Now moving across to Pegasus and globular cluster M15. And down a little bit further, Messier 2. And across a little bit to M72, again another globular. Right on the horizon, that one tricky to see. Open cluster M73 is probably also too low for us. And moving right up into Ursa Major, the Owl, M97. Then close to that is M108, nice side-on galaxy. And Winnaker 4, which is actually a star. It's unique in the Messier catalogue in being a star in Ursa Major, M40. Then on to M106. 8th magnitude galaxy. And close to that, M109, 10th magnitude galaxy. Be a struggle to see down that low. And finishing on one we can't see, unfortunately, in Capricorn, M30, the jellyfish cluster. So that is the Messier Marathon. So there you have it. We didn't quite get them all, but that's a quick taster of the Messier Marathon. Hopefully next year we'll all be able to get together and do that as a team. But here's hoping. So that's all I have to say now, just apart from stay safe and keep looking up.